Hello and welcome to the Covert Nerd Podcast. Thank you for listening. It means a lot to me that you take time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. First off, I just want to thank again some more people that have interacted with me online. Eddie from the Make Eternia Great Again podcast, Paranormal Dads, and the Daydream Instruction Manual podcast. Also, Brian Jackson from the Showtime and the Chef podcast, and Paul from the Moose's Monster Mash podcast. Thanks for interacting. Go to covertnerd.net for all the details from this episode and previous episodes. And again, you can also find different ways to contact me on social media like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can send me an email, whatever works. I would sure like to hear from you and hear what you have to say about the shows or suggestions for topics for upcoming shows. Without further ado, let's dive right in and nerd it up with Jeff. Today we have another guest, but you've heard him before if you've listened to some other episodes, and I'll be sure to put a link in the show notes for the other episodes Jeff has been on. But why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, it's good to be back, Lee. Thank you for having me. But yep, Jeff Geegan. I'm the co-host of Make Eternia Great Again, podcast about, as you probably guessed it, He-Man.
Yes.
Been going... I think it's been going about 3 years strong now. So
yeah,
yep.
Yeah. You guys have put out a lot of episodes, but you still got more figures
so much more
and vehicles, and just it's fun. It's a fun podcast with Eddie and Carl.
Eddie and Carl. Yep.
And I've been on there too, and some other guys have been there too. So it's a great podcast. Definitely check it out. But today is a little different. We're going to be talking about 80s sitcoms.
Yes.
There's so many of them, and like we talked about it's tough to narrow them down like we've done in some other episodes where we try to pick our top 3, top 5 favorites, but there's a slew of them.
There is a slew of them. It's really hard to pick your favorite because like there's so many good ones back then.
Yeah, they did.
And I kind of liked how, and we'll get to it, but I kind of liked how you kind of went to a deep dive. Yes. Some of yours, which is really, really good. I mean, because I think like everybody be like, oh, Full House, or all these
your top
ones.
5 or your
But it's like some of them were only a one-hit wonder. They were really good.
They were. So soon you'll need to grab your Rubik's Cube and your boombox and sit in front of the TV.
Put your Reeboks pumps on.
Exactly.
Pump them tight.
Rubik's Cube. Do you have one of those?
I don't. I used to.
Yeah.
I think actually. No, I don't think we have it anymore.
Maybe that's another episode idea. Obscure 80s toys.
That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had one, and my kids recently got one, and they still like, how do you figure this out?
Right, yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, go to YouTube, and you can figure it out.
Yeah, you figure it out.
Yeah, we didn't have YouTube, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, we didn't have that. It was, you had to figure
Get
it out.
off my lawn.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, first, though, let's dive into some trivia questions. We've done this before just to kind of get the brain going about 80s sitcoms. So all the trivia questions are from the 80s and about sitcoms. I'll start the question. It's your turn to answer them. And
okay.
Well, like I said, grab your Rubik's Cube and let's go.
All right, here we go.
Who was Mallory Keaton's fiance from Family Ties?
Okay. Like, what was his name in the show, or what was his real name?
What was his name in the show? Character name.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, man.
You can probably see him in your...
I could draw him.
You could probably talk like him.
Yep. Yeah, because he's like kind of a doofus, but he's like dressed kind of like a biker or something like that.
Yeah, he's supposed to be kind of
like a tough guy, but
the
really
earring
dumb.
and the hair and
it kind of looked like what's his name?
He's like Jersey. I don't know if it's Jersey accent. He's like, hey, Michael.
Yeah, hey, Michael. Yeah.
Kind of a Rocky.
What was his name? I don't know.
Starts with an N.
Nick.
There you go. Nick Moore.
Yeah, Nick. There you go.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember his real name too, because he was on a bunch of stuff. Like he was in what was that? Remember that movie with Roseanne? I think it was the only movie she was ever in. Like She-Devil, I think is what it was.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he was in that movie too.
Okay.
So he was in a bunch of stuff like right out of the gate, and then like he's fallen off the face of the earth.
Kind of got some popularity from the TV show, and then
that was it. Yeah,
faded out.
He was great though. Yeah,
he was good.
Good question.
Fun character.
Yep.
What was Alf's girlfriend's name from Melmac?
Oh gosh,
it's a popular song. Her name is in a popular song. I think it was by the Beach Boys.
Barbara Ann. I have no idea.
Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda.
That's right.
Help me, Rhonda.
It's been so long. I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
I recently found it was on. I was browsing YouTube, and I was like, "Oh, I just sat and watched it." But no, it was on our Roku. They had a bunch of old 80s free stuff, and I just watched an episode.
I think it came up on Amazon, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I remember I was like, kids, gather around. We're going to watch Alf. And we watched the first episode, and the pilot is garbage. It was so bad. I'm like, never mind.
Yeah.
But everybody else is like, you got to keep watching. Like, watch it up through, like, season 2, and then it gets really good. I was like, okay, we'll have to give it another try again. Because that first episode, everybody's like, looking at me like, I thought you said this was good, Dad. I'm like, I'm sorry.
It's lost a little bit of its luster in 30 years, I guess.
Yeah. Good show, though. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, here's one, because I know you like this show. On Night Court, who was Harry's idol?
That was Harry Houdini, wasn't it? Or are you talking about
Harry the judge on Night Court? Who was his...
Oh, wait. Oh, it was
a singer.
Right. Mel Torme.
There you go.
Yep.
Got it. He was a singer, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep, jazz singer.
Another 80s sitcom.
Oh, good episode or good show. Yep.
Here's another one. Who or what was the name of the detective agency in Moonlighting?
Oh boy, I have no idea. I was real young.
Okay.
When that was out, I didn't watch it. I don't know.
Blue Moon Detective Agency.
Interesting.
Remember the girl that always answered the phone? Blue Moon Detective Agency, and she had this long spiel.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay.
Gosh, I was real young. Yep. I was real young. What was that? Because that was like early 80s.
84, 83, I think.
I think it was like real early.
It was pretty early.
Yeah.
On Night Court, so back to Night Court again. On Night Court, Harry had a statue of what animal in his office?
Oh, man.
It's always in the background. Or no, it was on his desk, I think.
Goodness.
Starts with an A.
I was going to say, like, I thought it was like an anteater. It's an aardvark. Wasn't it? No, I don't know.
Armadillo.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's always on the front. I think it's always on the front of the desk or something like that. There's always a piece. So cool.
I'm an idiot. I'm just going to say all the A animals.
Antelope. Aardvark, antelope, ant. Go in, whatever. So let's get into our picks. So we got 3 picks. So if you're new to the show, this is the way we have it set up is we pick 3 shows each. We alternate, and we just talk about memories about them, and hopefully after talking about them, maybe it's something you can relate with, or like you said, you go fire up Amazon, you go fire up YouTube, Roku, and go watch some of these old sitcoms because there's so many, and they're all good.
Absolutely. Yep.
Let's see. Were you going first?
Yeah, start with me. Okay, so my first pick was Who's the Boss? I think that was like such a great show back then. Had Tony Danza starring in it. Judith Light was Angela. Alyssa Milano, obviously.
Oh yeah, Teen Heart. She was on every teen magazine in the late 80s.
Yes, I had a whole bunch of her pictures from like cutout magazines and stuff in my dorm room and stuff. Like that was kind of, I don't know if that's creepy or not, but
yeah, that might be.
Yeah, I don't know, but she was of age, she'd grown up, but anyways, but yeah, then obviously, so Tony Michelli was the dad in the show, and I recall the premise was like his wife had passed away, and so he had like moved looking for a job or something like that, and then like I think he was just gonna like clean houses temporarily until he could find something better, and so he brought his daughter with him, who was Samantha Sam, and that was Alyssa Milano and stuff, and so he ends up like applying for a job as a maid or whatever, for Judith Light, and then it was cool because it was like a different reversal of roles and stuff where you have the typical man of the household, and then you have a woman being the maid or whatever, and so this was like, well, now you have this business woman who doesn't have time for a husband and stuff and whatnot, and so she had a divorce, and she's got this little boy, and then she brings in a male maid, to come in and stuff. So
because he was from Brooklyn or New Jersey? I
think it's from Jersey, I think.
And they're in Connecticut, so she's kind of the uptight.
Exactly. Yeah, the suburbs and
class
stuff. And he's like, rough around the edges. Used to be a boxer, I think, or something like that. And
yeah.
And then, Samantha, same thing. She was real rough, like wanted to fight all the time and stuff. And
play football.
Exactly.
She
was more of the boy, and then Jonathan, the boy, is more of the girl and stuff. And he's like, ow, don't mess up my hair and stuff like that.
I might get dirty.
Exactly. So premise of the show was really, really cool. Yeah. That was kind of pushing boundaries back then, you know, and I mean, even today, if you think about it, it'd still be kind of pushing boundaries, a little bit, but that was a big thing back in the 80s, especially. They're really trying to push that woman power kind of a thing and stuff. And
women were just kind of starting to get into the workforce.
Exactly.
Which is shifting. And then you had, I think her mom lived with them too.
Right.
Mona.
Yeah. So Mona.
And
Yep.
she was partier. So again, she was the opposite of Judith's character, who's just uptight.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, she's like, "Come on, take the stick out of your butt," kind of thing.
Yes.
all the time to Angela and stuff. And so, but then it was kind of cool because like it starts off like that, and then it slowly blends into this. I think where the biggest stretch of the show was that they were all misunderstood and stuff, and then it was like they started kind of having this like love interest between each other and stuff, and there's like this weird vibe of she's digging Tony and Tony's kind of digging her, but there's no way, like, I would never be with some dirty guy like that and who's not worth a penny and stuff, and he'd be like, I'd never be with some uptight chick like you and stuff, and so there's always just that weird
the will they or won't they thing.
Exactly, and stuff, and so it built on that for a long time, and then eventually they were going to get, from what I recall, they were supposed to get married. Then they're going to branch off from there with the rest of the episode or rest of the show and with the sitcom and stuff. But I guess like there was enough feedback, like they were talking about it and stuff, and they decided not to do that at the very end because they were afraid that it was gonna like shift the show too much. And they probably should have done that because they had built up that premise for so long that people were like, finally, let's see them get married, let's see them, now we want to see what they do as a couple, and they didn't, and in fact they ended up like getting in a fight and stuff, and they broke up, and then they moved on their separate ways and stuff, and it like totally tanked the show, and so everybody's like, well, we don't want to see this again. And so like the I don't know if it was ABC or whatever, I forget who it was,
NBC, I think.
NBC, yeah. So they wanted to save the show, and in fact they ended up putting the dagger right in the heart of it, so
did it end on a cliffhanger then? Because they never really probably got canceled before they.
I think it did. I don't know if it was necessarily a cliffhanger. I just think it just
kind of like
fizzled
we're
off.
done.
I don't remember the last few episodes. It's been a long time since I watched it or whatever. But it went for a good long stretch there. It was 7 years, 84 to 91.
Yeah,
so
that's a long time.
It was a long time.
You were talking about that. You can only pull people so long with that constant tension between the two couples.
Exactly.
Before you're like, you need to.
That's a long time. Yeah. Think about it. That's a long time. If I was, there's no way I could wait like 6-7 years or whatever if I'm around this woman that I'm really interested in without trying to make a move. She's single, I'm single.
We know it's not real. Right. But at some point, you have to eventually, okay, we're only going to keep buying this, that you're living together for 6-7 years and nothing happens.
You would think, because you're kind of living like a family, you would think that something would have happened way earlier than
eventually
that, so I don't know, I thought it was
a fun show.
It was a fun show, and I thought it was kind of cool that it was like, you have a live-in maid, and then he brings in his daughter and all this other stuff, and they're kind of raising her as part of the family and stuff. It was really neat. It was a sweet little show. And my favorite episode, I don't remember what it was called, obviously, like I said, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but my favorite episode, what I remember of it was when Samantha turned 16, and on her 16th birthday she got a car, and so Tony was like, hey, I bought you a car, and she's like, you did? Oh my gosh. And she freaked out because like all of her friends like had like Mustangs and all these convertibles and stuff, and so she was hoping she was going to get this cute little convertible or something like that, and so she goes outside and there's like I forget exactly what the car was, but it was like a yellow Crown Victoria or something like that. It was like this big yellow boat, almost looked like a taxi. And he had glued all these reflectors on it and like put these stripes on it and stuff. So it was like this big like caution, look out kind of a thing. And she was like so embarrassed, oh my gosh, Dad, what are you doing? He's like, well, I want my baby to be careful,
safe,
and be safe, and she's like, okay, thanks. So she didn't want to hurt his feelings, but she was like mortified, and then so like when they went to school, I think he was like in the area or something like that, or he wanted to check up on her, I think, to make sure she made it to school okay. So he snuck over to the school to see if she made it okay, but she ended up like parking it down the street because she was embarrassed. And then so she like walks to school, and he sees it and confronts her, and his heart's broken, she's mad, and her heart's broken because he's upset, and oh my gosh. It was what's cool about it is like I'm running into that right now. Like I have a 16-year-old right now, and it's like, okay, son, I know this I'm trying to, try not to be overprotective and everything, but it's like, it was so true. Even in like that probably was like 1986 or something like that when that happened, and being able to see the same application of it in my life right now. And so I think of that all the time, because he doesn't have his car yet. You're still trying to figure that out, if he's going to get one just yet or, whatever. And so I'm just like, maybe I'm just going to get him some like big yellow boat and put these reflectors
yellow
all over.
Crown Vic with reflector lights all over it.
That's right. Like
the flashing lights.
That's right.
But yeah, with Tony's character, he was, like you talked about, the boxer, the tough guy, but he has his little girl, and so he's trying to protect her and do the right thing for her constantly. And yeah, it was a fun show.
Yeah, definitely.
My first pick is called It's Your Move. And like you were alluding to, it's a little bit of an obscure show because it only lasted from September 26th, 1984 to February 23rd, 1985. 18 episodes. The fun premise on this is 3 people. So you've got the Matthew Burton is the boy. He's a 14-year-old boy who's living with his mom, who's single and attractive, and then his older sister, Julie. So Matthew's the main character, and then Eileen, his mom, and then Julie is his sister.
Okay.
And the whole premise is this kid is this witty guy that's always pulling pranks, and he's always a step ahead and conning people. And his mom has no clue that he's doing these little schemes all the time in the background. He's got his friend Eli, who's in love with his sister Julie, who he drags along on all of his little pranks and schemes that he does. They live in an apartment building. And one day, across the hall, Norman moves in, who likes his mom, and they start dating.
Oh.
Well, Norman was the same kid at 14 that Matthew is now. And so he knows what's going on.
Onto it. Okay,
yes.
Cool.
And so Matthew's trying to thwart Norman and Eileen's relationship because he doesn't like this guy dating his mom. And Norman's always one step ahead of him and knows exactly what's going on.
That's pretty cool.
And so there's this constant dynamic and struggle between the two of his mom. His mom doesn't know. His sister pretty much knows what's going on. Not all the things, but she knows he's not as naive as his mom thinks he is.
Right. There's
this one scene where the handyman is cleaning the wall and he won't fix their drain in their shower. Because it's an apartment and things they just never get done.
Sure, yeah.
He walks up to him and they're talking and he says, "Hey, I've got this picture and I've got this envelope with your wife's address on it. This picture shows you at the local bar at mud wrestling."
Oh, man.
And puts it in the envelope and says, "It'd be a shame if your wife ever saw this." And all of a sudden he goes, "I'll get right on the drain." He's like, okay. So again, that just shows the whole thing that he's doing. So the cliffhanger was they hired this band. He made up this band called the Dregs of Humanity. It's a totally fake band, but he did it so he could get the money that they were doing.
Okay.
They're these skeletons from his school laboratory dressed in these dark black robes, playing the drums and guitar, and they're pulled by Eli, who's running them like puppets. They play at the school, and it goes off so well that this local theater calls them and says, "Hey, we want to pay you $20,000 to do a real show."
Oh, wow.
And he's like, "Sure, why not?"
Yeah.
And I never got to see part 2 because it was preempted by the president, Reagan, doing a speech.
Oh,
so the whole country, except for California, didn't see the part 2 of it.
Wow.
And then it got canceled.
Wow. So we don't know.
Nobody really knows.
Wow,
I looked all over the internet to try to find it. You can't find it anywhere.
That's crazy.
It's not on DVD. It's not on Blu-ray. It's
we'll
not
just
on
have
any
to
of the
hunt
streaming
down
services.
Jason Bateman and ask him.
I guess. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. So Matthew is played by Jason Bateman. Eileen, his mom, is played by Karen Kay. Trisha Cass did Julie Burton. Ernie Sabella, who's the maintenance man that I talked about, he did Timo's voice on Lion King. Pumbaa, the pig.
Yeah.
He did his voice. David Garrison, who is in Married with Children, he played Norman Lamb.
Okay.
Karen Kay, I kind of recognize her. I forgot to look her up. Yeah. She's been in a ton of stuff.
Karen Kay, yeah. Well, Karen Kay and Trisha Cass were both in things. Like, I remember them both.
I should have looked him up, but and of course Jason Bateman, huge star, child star.
Yeah, he's so good.
He's so good. Yes,
like, to this day, because he was in oh my gosh, what was the movie with Will Smith when he was like a superhero kind of? Hancock.
Okay, I knew. Okay.
Yep. Great movie. He was awesome in that. But then, like, I have to say, like, we're going off on a tangent here, but my favorite movie of his was Identity Thief with
Talking
McCarthy.
Jason Bateman, right?
Yeah, Jason Bateman, and it was with Melissa McCarthy.
Okay.
If you haven't seen that movie,
I haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh!
When did that come out?
That was 2013.
Okay.
So it's kind of new. The whole premise of that movie is that he's just like a normal dude, just trying to make it through life, kind of a thing. And then this lady who's Melissa McCarthy, she's kind of a rough around the edges, just kind of a gal and stuff. She ends up like stealing his information and stuff.
His identity,
because they both have the same name, and so she ends up like cleaning out his bank account, going to a bar, buys rounds for everybody, gets real trash, buys a whole bunch of things, stuff, and just cleans this dude out and stuff. Somehow or another, I forget because it's been a few years since I've seen it. But anyway, so he ends up finding her, does like a citizen's arrest and stuff because she's in a different state. He wants to bring her back because the cops are like, there's nothing we can do about it. This happens all the time. And so he's like, well, I'm going to do something about it, and so he goes and finds her and like handcuffs her and he brings her all the way across the United States and stuff back to the police and stuff to turn herself in and everything. And so it is hilarious.
Okay.
It's a little blue. It's a little
it's R-rated.
off color. It's a little,
Okay.
It's a little off color.
Okay.
But
you've been warned.
It is funny. But anyway, sorry.
What's the name of it again? Sorry.
That was Identity Thief.
Identity Thief.
But the other one that I love, sorry, going on this Jason Bateman tangent here, but Dodgeball.
I have a little picture of Jason Bateman in your room with a heart.
I do. No, I'm sorry. No, but he was in Dodgeball.
Dodgeball, yes.
Yes, where he plays like the commentator.
ESPN 8, the Ocho.
Yep, the Ocho, that's right.
Yes.
Yep. Wasn't he like Cotton was his name or something like that?
Yeah, something
and
like that. And
it's like, I don't know, man. It's like, oh gosh,
yes.
He could play any role.
And of course, Arrested Development.
Yep.
And then he was in another movie with...
Well, he was in like that toy movie, wasn't he? Like... What am I thinking of?
Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium.
Yep. That
he was in one with Christina Applegate and the girl. That one was funny too.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's the one.
He was also Teen Wolf 2.
Well, Teen Wolf 2.
That's right.
That didn't help
Arguably
his
the best
career.
Teen Wolf. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I know. that hurt his career.
That was bad.
That was the beginning of the end for him for a little while.
Yes,
but he made a comeback though. He
sure
got
did.
his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2017.
Wow.
Took him a while.
Good for him, though.
But yeah, there's only 18 episodes. It's just a fun show. It kind of took a dive in the story because, two reasons why it died is the night that they had it on was against Dynasty, which we know in the 80s was ginormous.
No kidding.
So you're up against Dynasty. Then halfway through the season, his mom finds out that he's a schemer.
Okay.
And that kind of ruined the whole premise.
Oh, yeah,
now that's out there. It's really no fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole premise the whole attraction is if you're a kid watching that, you wanted to be that kid because you wanted to be the prankster, the con. You're always one step ahead of all the adults. And if you're the adult, you know a kid that's like that.
Yep.
And you're the Norman of the guy. You're like, yeah.
I hate it when shows do that, though, when they ruin it too quick.
Yeah.
Like today, there's if you've never seen it, there's a show on Amazon called Man of the High Castle.
Okay.
Fantastic show. The first season was incredible. Second season was pretty good as well. But then when in the third season, it was just like, so basically what the premise is that it's incredible. It's as if World War II, so it's as if Hitler won. Okay. And so basically what happens then is that Japan and Germany take over the world.
Okay.
And so they now own the United States and they have it divided in half. And so I forget how it's divided, like the Missouri River or something like that, for whatever it is. And it's like kind of split down the middle. And there's there's this little kind of like neutral zone that's kind of like, well, it's not really Germany, it's not really Japan. And so it's like this safe zone. And then on the West Coast, I believe is Japan, and the East Coast is Germany.
Okay.
And it's crazy because it's like you're in New York City and stuff, and they're walking around with, their full regalia, the German regalia and stuff. And then over on the West Coast, it's same thing. Now it's everybody's dressed as Japanese and everything. But it's weird because there's Americans that have joined these armies and stuff. So they're not like in prisons and, and stuff like that. It's like they've just been overtaken. So now we have to acclimate. the premise of that is it's beautiful.
Okay.
You know, like this is what would have happened. So you're seeing like things like the White House and stuff with Nazi flags on it and all this other stuff.
Oh,
and it's just like, wow, that could have happened, you know? And so the writer of this like did a fantastic job of like, and so for 2 seasons, you're kind of like drugged through this, like, you know, there's all this other drama going on and all these other things and stuff. But, you know, obviously it goes way deeper than all that. But the thing that attracted people to it was like, what if? You know, just that big what if. But then the reason it's called The Man in the High Castle is, and spoiler if you've never seen it, shut off your stereo.
Stop now.
Right. But ultimately, the reason it's called Man in the High Castle is because, and this is all I'll say, is they end up like saying at the end of season 2, here is the man in the high castle. And it turns out it's like almost like a magical thing, and that it's actually like a multiverse kind of a thing. There's a reality of what we're in right now running parallel to
this other reality.
Okay. And so, that's all I'm going to say to it. So it's like, because I don't want to ruin it, because you need to watch it. It's really good.
Okay.
But starting the 3rd season, then we know now. And so you start trying to get in it. We got like my wife and I, we were addicted to that show, you know.
Okay.
And in the 3rd season, everybody's like, when's the 3rd season? The 3rd season stuff. And it comes out, and it was just like, burl. And like you watch like you look at the stars and everything and it's like 5 stars, and it's like 2.5.
Season 3, 2 stars.
2 stars.
So we almost have 2 dichotomies here then. Your pick, Growing Pains.
Right.
Or not Growing Pains, Who's the Boss?
Who's the Boss, yeah.
Went on for 7 years.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too long.
Yeah, a little too long.
It's your move, 18 episodes and
That's
done.
true, yeah. But that's the thing. It's like, I think that if they wouldn't have killed off that premise so quick, it probably would have kept going.
Yeah, because why now I have no interest in it. It's just I watched a couple of episodes after the reveal, and he's just kind of this whipping boy now. His sister is manipulating him, the boyfriend's manipulating him, and he's just kind of inept.
Right.
It's like, well, now that's the
yeah, I mean, even the title of the show, it's your move.
It's
you know,
your
like
move now.
you think about it, it's like
no, it's not your move.
Yeah,
now you've
exactly.
You're done.
Right, exactly.
Game over.
I mean, so that's the thing. Like with Who's the Boss, it was like, well, that was the question that I always went back and forth. Like, you're the man, so you should be the boss, but you're not. You're the maid, and you're the boss. No, who's so obviously they kept that going on and on, but.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Either way, it sounds like a great show,
it's
though.
Fun show.
I mean, the actors and actresses in it were
excellent. All of those guys or gals went on to do big things later on.
Yep.
I think Eli's the only one. I think he just kind of dropped out of acting and went into real estate or something like that.
Yeah.
But the end of the show, they tried to focus more on Eli because he's kind of the chubby kid that's kind of goofy in love with his sister. But again, it just didn't have the draw. So you can find clips on YouTube about it. So check it out. All right, what's your next one?
My next episode, or I keep wanting to say episode. My next sitcom is the one and only Family Ties. I think it's a very iconic show. I think if anybody says name 5 sitcoms from the 80s, Family Ties is always going to be in there. Partly because of who was in the cast, and I think that the main character was Michael J. Fox. So this was a sitcom that was
Back to the Future fame.
Back to the Future, that's right.
Anyway, sorry.
So it was obviously an American sitcom that aired on NBC for 7 seasons, so from 82 to 89, and starred Michael J. Fox as Alex P. Keaton, and then he had his 2 parents, Michael Gross and Meredith Baxter. They were Stephen and Elise Keaton, and then they had 2 daughters, and I think eventually they ended up having a boy to try to like revamp the series and stuff because the cuteness of the kids was dying off because all the kids were grown up. But speaking of Batemans, so Justine Bateman was Alex P. Keaton or Michael J. Fox's older sister in it. They did that role very well in that show. How they like had this like visceral hatred, of like brother and sister towards each other and stuff. And I never had sisters; I only had brothers and stuff. So I always watched that, going like, I wonder if that's what it's like. And if it is, I'm glad I don't have a sister.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, you have that dynamic in your family now, so you'll get to see.
Yep, totally. Yeah. So we have enough boys, and now we have two girls now. So. Yeah, we see it quite a bit, you know. But my boys treat her pretty well for the most part. They just get kind of annoyed with each other from time to time. So.
You'll probably see more and more Alex P. Keaton and Mallory.
Yes.
Headbutting.
Definitely.
As they get older.
Definitely.
You're like, oh, now I know what they're talking about.
Well, it was kind of funny because when they were younger, they used to really like my 3rd oldest boy and then my daughter. They're only like a year and a half apart, and so. It was funny. They used to fight, not like physically fight, but they used to argue and stuff when they were toddlers all the time. And what a funny little story here. Sorry, go off on another tangent. But my wife all the time, when they would start getting hyped up and everything, she would be like, "Guys, that's enough. Knock it off." I said, "That's enough. Guys, stop it. Guys," I said, "quiet." My daughter, who was like 2 at the time, she thought my son Davin, she thought that his name was Guy. So she thought that my wife was constantly yelling at Davin, at him. And so then it turned into, well, his name's Guy. So she started calling him Guy. So she called him Guy for like 2 years. And we didn't understand like why she was calling him Guy. She was like, "Guy, stop it." Like, what, like, "Guy, I want to play," and like, why does she keep calling him Guy, and then it like dawned on us, like, oh, it's because you're always like, "Guys, I said knock it off."
That's awesome.
And so she thought, I was like, man, that's funny. It's like my daughter thought that she was like made out of Teflon or something like that. And like my son was the one always 100% in trouble, and she was never a part of it. So, but
oh man, he's never going to live that down.
No,
Guy.
No, but exactly. But anyways, back to the show though. So fantastic show. What I loved about it was the parents were like these grown-up hippies, and they're very liberal, very much about peace and love and giving everybody, feminist movement and giving everybody a chance and this, that, and the other thing. And for whatever reason, Alex B. Keaton was a straight up strict conservative who was like big into Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, the whole nine. And like he wore a suit everywhere. He had a briefcase, he was just like, it was, they're like, "How is this our son?" I think they made so many comments about that throughout the show. Like, did we pick up the wrong kid from the hospital?
Yep, they did. I remember that.
It was so funny. So he was such an oddball out and everything, and he took his life so serious, and they were just like completely befuddled on how he was a part of their clan and stuff. But for whatever reason, it worked out and stuff. But what I love about it is that he was like kind of embarrassed of his family. I remember like there's an episode where he was, I think it was even in the first season, where he wanted to date this like super popular girl, and she wouldn't give him the time of day and stuff, but he was really smart. The typical thing of, "Hey, I'll tutor you, blah, blah, blah." Well, anyway, so they start to kind of hit it off and everything. Well, he wants her to come over to his house and stuff, to tutor and whatnot, but he's embarrassed of their house, even though it was a really nice house. He's embarrassed of it because she lives in a mansion. She's got a butler and a driver and all this other stuff. He like starts making up all this stuff, and he's running around the house telling his mom and dad like, "Okay, you do this for a living, you do that for a living, and the butler's sick, so he's not here," all this other stuff. And he's like making up this whole thing. And then so then the girl comes over, and like they're just going along with this whole weird setup, where he's like, "Oh yeah, our tennis court is it's being built right now," or whatever. I forget everything he was saying and stuff, but he was just like really playing off. She's like, "Oh, that's interesting, very good for you," and just like blew it, like no big deal. But and then what was funny is they end up going to like this like golf club or whatever, like a fancy club or whatever, to have dinner with her family, and he doesn't want his parents to be invited to it because he's afraid they're going to embarrass them and stuff. And so they're not invited and everything. And it's really like aggravating the dad because the club has like been kind of known for being racist and stuff as well.
Okay.
And so he's like, "That's it. I'm going to go get him." And so he goes to the club and everything, and he ends up like making a big scene and everything. And Alex is mad and stuff. And then he's like, "I don't know who that man is," and all this stuff. It was really funny. But the whole deal with that show is there was always like a big moral of this story.
Sure. Well, they took that episode there, for example, they just took how sometimes we as teenagers felt about our parents, but multiplied it times 10.
Yeah, totally.
How we're like, "Oh geez, Dad's gonna say something stupid again." And, but this obviously that took turned it up to 11.
Yeah. And I think what it was is like they could have just went like, "Oh, my parents are so annoying," to hey, this is actually a pretty big deal. Like this is like serious that you might be getting involved with something that you don't quite know, is hurtful. Exactly. And
did it end up being the club was kind of racist or just sketch?
I don't think so. I don't think it was.
Or just all misunderstanding.
I think it was all misunderstanding by everybody. Okay. So the club wasn't that bad. Okay. And her parents were actually not that bad and stuff like that. And And so the dad ended up making a fool out of himself. He ended up apologizing to Alex and stuff like that. And then Alex ended up apologizing to his dad, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, but no, I mean, it was, there's just so many like cool messages that they had throughout that show. And like one of their most iconic episodes was when Alex was studying for this test.
Yeah, to get into that college or something like that. I think it was like
real
important.
Yeah, it was SATs or something like that. I forget what it was. But anyways, he was trying to cram all this you know, study, and he was falling asleep and stuff. And so somehow or another, again, this is going off my old teenage brain from back in the day, but somehow or another he got his hands on some speed.
Yeah, it was for weight control medicine of Mallory's friend.
That's what it was. Yep, that's right. And so he kept popping them and stuff like, oh, just to help me get awake and stuff. And next thing you know, he's like overtaking it. He's like, well, he's like going around like the room like 1,000 miles an hour. He's like, I gotta clean.
He got addicted too.
Yeah, he got addicted to it.
Didn't he hit Mallory or something?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, she was like trying to get it from him and stuff, and he ended up like slapping her and stuff
because he was addicted. He's like, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. Yeah, exactly.
So it was man, that was a deep episode. They had a few of them.
Yeah, you know, and I think he ends up falling asleep and missing the test.
Yeah, he missed the test.
He did all this work and it hurt his family for nothing.
Yep, for nothing.
And I remember that episode. That's iconic. He's running down the stairs and jumps off the banister because they're playing Monopoly.
That's right.
And his parents are like, what's going on?
That's right. He's like, okay, all right, let's do this.
I remember, I think initially the focus was going to be more on the parents. But as seasons went on, the fans liked the kids.
Yeah.
The kids became more of the focus instead of the parents because, they were the hippies. We went to, the 1969, what is it called?
Woodstock.
Yeah, he went to Woodstock and Flower Children, like you said. Correct. And then he has a picture of Richard Nixon in his room.
That was so good.
He's like falsely accused. You know, he kept like, no, he's not a bad person.
I remember an episode where it looked like he was looking at a magazine, almost like it was like a dirty magazine, or like it had it pulled apart,
like a Playboy.
He's like looking at it like ooh or something like that, and then they show it, and it's a picture of Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, it's exactly how he was.
Yeah, it's
totally opposite of his parents.
What was cool though, like this is a little side information, but like obviously that's at the same time when Back to the Future was coming out, and so I'm gonna forget his name, but I think it was like almost 3/4 of the movie of Back to the Future was filmed with another guy.
Michael J. Fox couldn't commit to it, but they really wanted him to do it, but he was doing Family Ties at the same time.
That's why it was. So they wanted to get Michael J. Fox, but he was committed to Family Ties, and so they brought on Eric Stoltz.
Okay.
And so he was the redheaded guy and stuff. Do you remember
Eric Stoltz? Remind me.
So he played
I've probably seen him.
He was in, what was that movie where he had like a lion face or whatever with Cher.
Mask.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that guy, great actor. He's been in a bunch of movies and stuff, but he was the first original Marty McFly. And the thing was, it was Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah, Spielberg. Yep.
Yeah. And so he loved Eric Stoltz, and he was like, "Oh, he's going to do great." Well, then they started getting 3/4 of the way through the movie. Well, the thing was that his interpretation of Marty McFly was a lot more serious. So he just didn't like the way that the movie was feeling. And so they're like, we got to stop production. We got to stop, and we got to get Michael J. Fox. And so they went back after him, and he was like, I think they offered him more money.
Negotiated some sort
and so he's like, okay, I'll just do both. Yeah. And so he was filming Family Ties, and then he had like a driver, like a limo driver, taking him over to do Back to the Future, and he's doing both at the same time. It literally almost killed him. I mean, they said like the limousine driver is saying like, we got to stop this for this kid. He's like, he's falling asleep in the limousine, and I have to carry him out to the set, and it was just dragging him to the dirt, But yeah, I remember seeing this interview from the guy who played Biff and stuff. He was talking about how, like, this is his first big movie, and he's so excited, and Steven Spielberg, and like, oh my gosh, this thing's gonna be huge, and da-da-da. And then they're 3/4 of the way through the movie, and all of a sudden they're like, cut. All right, we want to meet.
Reset.
What they said is they want to talk to him in the trailer. He's like, that's it. I'm fired, or pulling the funny and something like that. And so they pull Biff to the side and stuff, and they're like, we just want to let you know that we're going to stop production. He's like, dang it, I knew it. He's like, we're going to go with somebody else as Marty McFly. We were interested if you wanted to start all over again and keep going as Biff, or if you wanted to quit and have somebody else do it. And he's like, of course I want to stay.
Yeah.
You know, so, but then he was like, I've been here on set for 2.5 months and now I have to go another probably 4 months or whatever to, to finish this out. And so he's like, they kept paying me. So he's like, I made a lot more money. He's like, but he goes, by the time that we started shooting again with this next character or with, Michael J. Fox, he's like, we were already exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's like, if you look at, because there's some scenes on the internet that show Eric Stoltz and stuff, I shouldn't even say on the internet, in the movie itself, there's a couple scenes in the diner scene where Biff is like in his face and Marty McFly's dad's face, they're about to fight and all this other stuff. And then Marty McFly does this thing. There's a scene in there that was actually shot, and it's actually Eric Stoltz is still in that scene. And so Spielberg liked that shot better, like Biff's role or his scene better with Eric Stoltz, but you could just see the back of him. And so it's just kind of like the side or whatever. And so you can kind of sort of see if you're looking out for it, like, wait a minute, that's not Michael J. Fox, that's Eric Stoltz. But the thing is, what you see though is you see that, sorry, I forget his name, but the guy who played Biff, you see, like, it goes from scene to scene to scene to scene in that diner scene. Of 1 second he's got bags under his eyes, and the next second he's like he's perfectly fine. So he looks like he's aged, like in the same scene. It's like, what the heck's going on? It was because he was already it was like he had already shot this like months before, and now he's shooting these other scenes with Michael J. Fox, and he's tired, And so I just thought that was really interesting.
Well, there's probably a lot of scenes in there that didn't have Michael J. Fox in that were filmed.
Yeah, there still are.
I'd be curious to find out, especially nowadays with Blu-ray and streaming services, if they would just release the Eric Stoltz version.
Yeah, I think you can see. I think they have some of it online. I think they have some on YouTube.
I'd be curious to know what that looks like. Michael J. Fox killed it.
He did. Well, that's what it was. And Steven Spielberg said, like, he still to this day loves Eric Stoltz. He's one of the best actors he's ever worked with and everything. And he was like, and Eric to this day says the same thing. He's like, it was better with Michael J. Fox. It still would have been a blockbuster movie, but it would have never gone on to 2 and 3.
Probably not.
That's what they're saying. It was like, it would have been a great movie, and boom.
The story, now that you mention it, the story of him being exhausted doing Back to the Future imitated the episode where he was cramming for the.
That's exactly.
He didn't get on. Well, as far as I know, I guess he didn't get on drugs, but
yeah, who knows?
Drank a lot of coffee, probably.
That's right, probably stunted his growth. That's why he's so little.
Definitely.
I'm just joking, but anyways, sorry.
All right,
long tangent there.
No, excellent show. I don't know if it's on. That's something we should have done is found out which one of these are on streaming services.
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
Yeah, but it's not Prime. You have to buy it.
You have to buy it. Okay.
I think. Well, maybe it might be on Prime. Because I watched a few of the episodes. I can't remember. I know it's on Amazon.
It kind of took the normal, just to wrap it up, it kind of took the normal toll of 80s sitcoms. It just, as the kids grew up, the audience kind of grew up and it was just done.
They just got done. It wasn't cute anymore. They tried to put a kid in there, like you said, but it just. Yeah, because I remember like I think it was the last episode, like Alex P. Keaton, like, because he was in college and then he graduated from college. He ended up getting a job and stuff. And I remember specifically that I forget what kind of firm or whatever he got a job in, but he like got this job and he was like, Dad, he's like, they're going to pay me $35,000 a year. And they're like, what? And they're like, oh my gosh, like you're 22 years old and you're going to be making $35,000 out of the gate. That's amazing, And I remember back then, $35,000 a year. Holy smokes. Maybe someday I can make that, And like, wow, inflation, right?
Yeah, inflation stinks. I wonder what that'd be like today. I know there's a website you can.
That'd be like $70,000 today.
At least $70,000. So yeah, 22 years old, out of college, making $70,000.
Dude, that'd be all right.
That's not too shabby. So yeah, good show. So check it out. So my next pick is Different Strokes. Different Strokes came out in 78 and went to 86. So not quite the 80s, but the bulk of it was in the 80s. The bulk of it was in the 80s, yeah. So we'll allow that, I guess.
Yep.
Anyway, so the premise is Philip Drummond, the main character, is this rich guy. He owns a company, Trans Allied Incorporated. Couldn't get more 80s than.
No kidding.
So he's this rich guy that lives in New York City in a penthouse, top floor. He has a cleaning lady who's African American, and she passes away. Well, she made a deal with her before she died that said, look, if something happens to you, I'll take your 2 boys, which are Arnold and Willis.
Willis.
Arnold and Willis. and makes the deal that if you pass away, then I'll take the boys and I'll adopt them. They'll be my kids. And so that ends up happening. I don't remember what happened to the dad. I don't know if he passed away too, but I don't recall. But anyway, so that happens and they move in and he adopts them, and they're from the Harlem rags to riches story where literally they're living in poverty and they move into this big penthouse, and it's interracial family. He has a daughter as well, Mr. Drummond does, but Mr. Drummond is very kind-hearted, very nice guy. You see him in the show interacting with the kids. He's just a regular dad, even though he's got a lot of money, but he's just a really nice guy. And I guess a lot of the people, when I was doing some research that work with him off screen, said no, his character on screen is a lot like he is in real life. He's just
cool.
a fun-loving guy. You know, he takes his job serious. You know, when he needs to be, he was always one of the things I always said. He's always on time. He's never late.
Right.
He's just very prompt and easy to work with, and just a really easy guy. So the whole story is that interaction between moving from Harlem to the penthouse in New York, dealing with the interracial dynamics that they had to deal with. Gary Coleman plays Arnold, who was the star of the show. He's the comic relief, because he was always saying and doing silly things. He's this chubby little boy who has his catchphrase of "what you talking about," which actually didn't happen. I guess, let's see, I think they talked about that early on when the writers did it. They didn't want to overuse it, so they tried not to put it in every single episode, but Gary Coleman was so sick of having to say that line. Yes. Yep. He, in fact, when he did interviews by the late 90s, or in the 90s, he wouldn't even, talk show host would ask him to do it. He's like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. Sorry. You see that in even today. For example, the Black Panther, the arm thing with that they do in Black Panther.
Yeah.
The guy that plays his character, I forgot his name, but he got so sick of having to do that. And then Andy Serkis, who did Gollum and Lord of the Rings, even today,
people like talk like Gollum.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to do that. In fact, he went on to, I think it was Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Fallon asked him to do it, and he told him, he's like, no, we agreed before the show started that we wouldn't do it. Why are you making me do this? But he did it in the Gollum voice.
Oh, that's funny.
So you told us you wouldn't ask us. You wouldn't ask us, and he did
that's
it.
That's pretty funny.
So yeah, that catchphrase, "what you talking about," was pretty common. And Kimberly was the daughter. Willis is the older brother. Tons of guest stars like Janet Jackson, Muhammad Ali, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Reggie Jackson, Mr. T was on there. Oh man, he was on everything.
Dude, he was. Him and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were on everything too. That's funny.
And then Nancy Reagan, of course, was the Just Say No campaign. But again, kind of like Family Ties, they tackled some pretty serious issues. It wasn't all fun and games all the time. They, like I said, tackled the interracial family dynamic, tackled drugs. They tackled even pedophilia, because they had this bike shop owner guy that tried to lure him and his friend in, and it was kind of creepy.
What?
Yeah.
Remember that?
We'll have to find that. Smoking. His best friend Dudley, his dad smoked, and he had to take out a lung.
Wow.
And they dealt with that. Religion. They were trying to pick a religion and all sorts of different things. So, it's a good show. Funny.
Yeah. What's interesting about it is like, and this is so weird, but like you look at the way that different is spelled. It's like different, different strokes. So I wonder if that was a play on the fact that they were African American and white people together.
You know what I mean? Family. Yeah.
So, because like otherwise, like, why didn't you just spell it different? It's just one E.
I assume. Yeah. You're right.
You put an apostrophe where an E is supposed to be. Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. I wonder if that's what they're thinking with that. It's
it ran. Let's see. It ran. What did I say?
It was 78
to 86. And they did kind of like the other shows too, where as the kids got older, they had Mr. Drummond get married, and she had a kid that they brought in, but again, kind of the cute kid. Yeah. And they always had one thing about the show that was always funny is they had the bully from school was called the Gooch.
Oh, the Gooch.
Yes. They never show the Gooch.
That's so funny.
But they have a scene where he's like, yeah, look at my lunch ball. And he crumpled up his metal lunch pail into a ball.
Oh, man.
Just all the things that the Gooch did. Yeah.
That's Gooch had gotten
held back 5 years. And
That's so funny.
I think Willis was talking to him on the phone, and he's like, "Calm down, Gooch. Have your mom throw you another piece of meat."
Like he's some animal
Constantly.
or
And Muhammad Ali's there, and he's talking to the Gooch on the phone, and the Gooch passes out supposedly, but they
That's
never.
so funny.
He's
So they
always
never
just
show
the Gooch.
him.
They never show him, but
That's
he's always
a great
the
running
Gooch.
deal.
Also, too, Conrad Bain, who played Mr. Drummond, he was on a TV series. I found this out and thought it was interesting. A TV series every year from 1972 until 1988. So 16 years in a row, he was
Jeez.
on some sort of TV show.
That's cool, man.
I think that attests to what the other people were saying about how easy to work with he is, and
Good
he
for
did
him.
what he was told, and not do what he's told, but
So he's a
he's
rare,
prompt.
rare breed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
So
yeah, he was pretty old when he passed away.
yeah, like
90?
90 years old.
Jeez.
I know. You gonna make it to 90?
2013. I don't know. Part of me hopes so, but part of me hopes not. We were
Yeah.
talking about that with the kids. I was telling them, like, you guys are going to probably live to see 2100. And they're like, what? Like, what does that mean? It's like, okay, so we're in I had to explain, like, we're in 2000s right now. You're going to probably hit 2100. And like, what?
Hard to
It
imagine.
like blew their mind. And like, but that's like the future. It's like,
Mind blown.
Yeah, it is. It's
we have a
totally like
DeLorean?
the future. Yeah, can we have a DeLorean? Oh, man. That'd be nice.
So yeah, check out Different Strokes. I think it comes out it's on DVD. I don't know if it's on streaming, but
Yeah, sorry to like go back a little bit to it too, but it's like too bad about just kind of almost like a curse for those poor kids in that show.
They did a behind the scenes, I think, on them, and all the kids just nosedived. The
Ruined
guy that
them.
plays Willis ended up on drugs and in prison.
Yep.
Dana, who played Kimberly, Mr. Drummond's daughter,
Yeah, she
died
was
early, drugs.
Yep.
And Gary Coleman,
Yeah, he passed away.
he passed away
Yep.
before.
I don't know if he had
Conrad.
drug problems, but like his parents like took all
his money.
and-
Yeah.
Poor dude.
The child star thing is just
It
tough.
is. It is. Yeah, I was listening to not too long ago. I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast or whatever. I kind of was going back to some of the old ones. He had Macaulay Culkin on there.
Oh yeah.
Surprisingly, the guy ended up he's pretty normal. He had
Yes.
a little stint, but he's actually pretty well put together, and he's pretty normal and stuff. So he just had to get completely out of it.
Yeah.
He was like, he blew up so quick and got so much money and stuff, and just the fame and fortune and everything. He saw it, and I don't recall if I hadn't gotten to the point in the episode where they were talking about why he got out or whatever. But it sounds like it was his parents were like, okay, we gotta get him out of here, because they brought his little brother in as well and stuff. And I think they were just starting to see it was just kind of ruining the kids and stuff. So
it's got to.
it's like, you make that kind of money, at some point you just be like, okay, we're good.
Fame.
Yeah, we're
you
good.
can't even step out of your door and people
Poor
are there.
guy.
Gary Coleman was the same way. He was the star of the show, and it ruined him.
Just imagine, like, because he ended up, I forget what he had or whatever, but like he was kind
dwarfism?
of a dwarfism.
Yeah,
a
some
form
sort of
it.
dwarfism.
And so he never grew past like the height of like 4 foot something or other.
Yeah.
So he always had that same look. And so he was always looked like a cute kid, even as an adult, and so like to always carry that on with you.
Well, that pressure, the pressure, his parents were always, they were his managers.
Yep.
And so they were always pushing to get him more money per episode.
Right.
So his salary eventually got to $70,000 per episode.
Good.
By early, I think it was 83 or 84. Can
That's
you imagine?
pretty good.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Like even today,
Especially for a
I'd
kid.
love to do $70,000 per episode.
Yeah. He did reprise him and Conrad reprised their characters in the 1996 episode, the series finale of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh,
They were touring the house to think about buying it. So
That's
you
awesome.
should hear, you can go on to YouTube and hear the crowd pop, because everybody knew who they were,
who it
and they
was,
were Mr. Drummond and Arnold. He's like,
That's pretty cool.
This house is okay, but I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
about the neighborhood. They walk from upstairs and just across the front. They talk a little bit, and then they move off screen. But
Nice.
it was just kind of a good homage or a reminder of,
That's pretty cool.
of that. He doesn't say what you're talking about, but
That would have been funny though. But it was almost like such a low hanging fruit, you know? Like,
Yeah, that's
everybody's, like,
true.
expecting it,
even reprising both their roles, especially Mr. Drummond looks exactly the same.
Wow.
And Arnold looks just a little bit taller and a little bit chubbier. But anyway, you can go find it. Last series finale of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You can go see it. It's
That's
kinda
awesome.
funny.
That's cool.
Cool. All right. What's your next one?
All right. So my last pick was Married with Children.
Okay.
So that was kind of in the same realm where you started in the 70s, went into the 80s. It started in the 80s and went into the 90s. It was lasted 10 years, went from 87 to 97. So
that's crazy.
Spent the majority of its time in the 90s, but it started in the 80s anyways. But it was originally aired on Fox, and so that was a big deal because Fox really didn't have a lot going for it back then. And so I just remember doing like back history on this and stuff, and they had pitched this to so many different channels and everybody turned it down. Like, there's no way this would fly. The dad's too dirty, the mom's, blah blah blah, they're playing on stereotypes too hard, and it was like, there's no way this would be a hit. We're not going to do this. It's going to tick people off. And Fox is like, I kind of like it. Let's try it, and they're like, what do we got to lose? They're really reaching and stuff. So they brought them on. I don't remember the actual prices and stuff, but they barely paid that cast, because they just couldn't afford it and stuff. But then obviously it blew up for them and stuff. And then they were paid very well after that.
Back then, Fox was always considered a little edgy.
Totally. Yeah, it had to be. But yeah, so it says like they did 259 episodes and 11 seasons. And I think that once you hit 100 episodes, you go on.
You're syndicated. Yep.
Syndication. Yep. So you're set for life.
Oh, yeah.
Which is awesome. So
they're probably still playing this.
Yeah, they all guaranteed. Guaranteed. So they're still making money off of it. Obviously, the characters in it was, the dad was Al Bundy, the mom was Peggy Bundy, and then the daughter was Kelly, and then the son was Bud Bundy, and then they just had a dog, I think. And then they always had the neighbors coming over, which was Marcy and Steve Rhodes. He was Marcy's first husband, and then they split up, and then she ended up remarrying a guy named Jefferson. What was funny about the show was that it was, I don't want to say a lot like the typical America at the time, but it played a lot on this, like I said earlier, the stereotypes of certain people of America. So like the dad was like the failed jock from high school who just can't, kind of like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, just can't get over the fact that he didn't make it in life, and so he ends up being a shoe salesman and stuff, making like basically like minimum wage or something like that. And he was like, oh man, the glory days where I was like Joe Popular and I was the football star and all this other stuff. And they're like, yeah, whatever happened to you? And he's like, that, like points at Peggy Bundy and stuff, and but it was just so funny because like it was just like one of those things where they're like high school sweethearts and stuff, and they ended up both kind of ruining each other's lives, and she just didn't want to. She just wanted to, get married and stay at home, and he was like, oh, and he didn't have an education or anything like that, and just went from there and stuff. And then they got two, really rough, bratty kids and stuff. They got the promiscuous older daughter, and then the boy who wishes he was promiscuous.
Yes.
But kind of nerdy and stuff. And what I loved about it though is because like we grew up in a similar household to an extent where we didn't have a lot of money and stuff. And so what I loved about it is like, so you watch a show like Different Strokes where it's all about these rich people and stuff. And you're like, oh man, that'd be nice, and then you see something like this and they're just like, what do we got to eat? Like, nothing. We got some dog food maybe or something,
canned ravioli or something.
Yeah, exactly. They're always like, there's nothing in this house to eat, and they're always just, doing different shenanigans.
Scrimping by
and stuff. And, so there's a lot of real talk with some of that stuff, where a lot of Americans at that time, weren't used to having a Different Strokes kind of a life. They're used to this sort of a thing, but no, I love the show. It was, again, very risque, Little Blue. There's always like, like how we're just talking about how the 80s were always pushing like the feminist, kind of a thing. Like, oh, this is cool. A woman can have power and can do these things and stuff. And like Married with Children was like the exact opposite.
Yes.
Where it was like he wore these shirts and had this group called like No Ma'am. And it was like this like male anti-feminist group and stuff, and they would like go meet on the roof because they're like scared their wives would hear them or something like that, and they would just talk crap about their wives and everything, and like they're just fed up with it and stuff. And I thought that was funny because like I remember like watching my dad and stuff at that same period of time, and I'd be like, I could see my dad doing a group like this, because like my mom ruled the roost in our house. It was kind of funny, but
Yeah, they really leaned hard in the stereotypes.
Big time. Yeah.
Yes.
And then they also, I don't know if they started it for like viewers, for like ratings or whatever, but the one thing I don't like about it is like most of these episodes or sitcoms, I keep saying the episodes, most of these sitcoms that we watch that we're talking about today, we could sit down with all of our kids and watch them, I'm not going to put this in front of Married with Children. I can't believe I watched it.
Yeah, I know.
Kid,
I know.
Like I see some of it today, I'm like, holy smokes, and like, they have girls in bikinis and stuff all the time and just scantily clad women.
He's always trying to
all the
look up
time.
women's dresses
Yeah,
at the
exactly.
shoe store.
Yeah,
He's
like
getting the mirrors to look
the good
up.
looking ones, and then like he's
Yeah.
like he turns around and then there's like a 400-pound lady sitting there like, and he's all like acting repulsed by it and stuff, and he says all these like shrewd remarks to him and everything, like calls him all these bad.
It is
names
not
and
PC.
stuff. It is not PC at all. It's like the furthest sitcom ever away from being PC. But I would have to say like my favorite episode was an episode where, again, being poor, you don't have a lot of options to do family vacations and stuff like that. So they're like, hey, we're gonna do this family event. They're like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna go down together and take the car through the car wash. And they're like, yay. And so they're like, this was our family event, was going through the car wash. So they go down to like the really nice, car wash where you drop it off in the front and you get out and you go inside and then you wait for it to go through the wash and then you pick it up at the end. What was great about it is that he's driving this old, just beat up, like a tannish yellow. It was a Dodge Duster.
Okay.
And just this gross car, but he loves it. He's had it since he was in high school. It was like his hot rod back in high school kind of a thing or whatever. So anyways, it's like, yeah, it's been a long time since I watched the old Duster. We're going to take her through and stuff. So they drop it off. They're like, yeah. He's like, do you want to upgrade to this level and stuff? And he's like, you know what? She deserves it. Like my car deserves it. So it's like an extra $1 and stuff. And like Peggy, I think, got all mad because he was spending an extra $1 on it, but he would never spend money on her and stuff. It was so funny.
You like me more than the car.
Right. So then they like go into the show or into the store. They're like walking around looking at all the weird things like the air fresheners and stuff like that. They're waiting for the car and some shenanigans are going off in there. And all of a sudden the guy comes in. He's like, Mr. Bundy? He's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, we ran into a problem. He's like, what? Did you scratch my baby? Did you, And he's like, oh, no. We lost your car. And he's like, what? How do you lose my car? It goes in at one end, it comes out the other. He goes, well, that's the thing. We saw it go in, but it never came out. And he's like, well, so go back through and find it. And they're like, well, we did. We had a couple guys walk through and we can't find it anywhere. Like, how do you lose a car in a car wash? And so they end up showing Al like going through, and you can see like the glass, and you can like, so they're in the store and you can see him like walking through the car wash looking for his car. And I just remember they're showing all the lights, like here's the suds. And then they show him and like he gets all suzzed up, and then it's like, here's the rinse. And then what was the best is like it goes through and it just shows like flashing hot wax, and you just hear him he just screams bloody murder. And then they show the window and it looks like he's got like candle wax all over
him. Yes, that's awesome.
He's like all stumbling like, ah. So anyway, so he comes in and he's like, what the heck did you guys do to my car? We can't find it anywhere. And so then they're like, oh, we're so sorry, sir. And again, I forget the whole thing, but there's like some shenanigans, like I said, going on within the store and stuff for the remaining of the episode as they're trying to find the car. And then finally they come back at the very end of the show and they're like, well, Mr. Bunny, we found your car. And he's like, oh, thank goodness, where was it? And he goes, well, the funny thing is, like, it came out and it was been out here the entire time. He's like, well, how did you not know that it was my car? And he's like, well, it turns out, sir, that your car went in yellow and it came out red. He's like, what? He's like, yeah. He goes, oh, you know what? As a matter of fact, I remember buying a red car.
Couldn't even remember.
So it's like it had been that long since he washed it that it just like permanently turned like a ugly yellow tan color.
That's awesome.
So it ended up being a red car. So then they show them all getting this nice shiny red Dodge Duster and they drive off.
Off to the sunset.
Yep. Oh my gosh, it was so good. But
the same, the creators for Married with Children are the same ones that did It's Your Move.
Oh,
that's the same guys.
That's pretty cool. Well,
guys.
it would make sense because the guy that
Norman,
so
David
Norman,
Garrison.
Yep. So he played the neighbor,
Steve Rhodes.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's the same two guys that did It's Your Move did Married with Children after It's Your Move got canceled.
That's funny. Well,
Yeah.
everything makes sense.
Small world. They were able to push the envelope on that show.
Yep.
And they got more than 18 episodes.
Yeah, they got way more. I think they like broke so many records with that.
Oh, they had to.
With that.
10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
11
insane.
seasons. I forget what it was. There's a bunch of records that they broke. Like it was the longest running sitcom, and like most money made and all this other stuff. There's a bunch of records that they broke. But
Christina Applegate, she was the one that became famous from that show.
Yeah, she did. I mean, everybody kind of does their own thing. I think Ed O'Neill's still on a show right now. Katie Seagal, she went on to do a bunch of stuff too. I mean, she was like in Futurama, and then was many years on that, and then she was in oh man, what is that show? The biker show. I never watch it.
Okay.
It's gosh darn it, Sons of Anarchy.
Oh yeah.
So Katie Seagal was in Sons of Anarchy.
Yep,
Okay. So so she was on Lost and a bunch of other things. So she's had a pretty good career.
Oh, yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. But yeah, the poor David Faustino.
Yes.
He played Bun Bunny. He just like whatever reason just couldn't get any traction after that show.
Yeah, I don't know
like
why.
everybody else did really well.
It's weird. That whole thing is just so hit and miss.
It is. And
You just don't know.
He tried so hard to like try to resurrect himself, like this was probably like early 2000s and stuff. He like started his own internet show.
Yes, I remember that.
And it was hilarious.
He and David Faustino or something like
yeah,
that.
and it was exactly. And so it was like his real life, but it was like kind of fiction though too. And so it was basically like the premise of it was that his wife left him for Coolio. And so she ran away with him, and then so his life's just a wreck and stuff, and so he's constantly like trying to hunt down Katie and Ed O'Neill and
trying to get on there,
Applegate, try to you got any work for me, you gotta and stuff, and they're like no David, sorry, and so he's always trying to like bum money from them and all this other stuff because they're all like successful and he's not. So I loved how he like had a humor.
He took humor with it instead of depressing
and doing something
especially
bad about
doing an internet show in the early 2000s.
Yeah, that was
extremely innovative.
Very innovative, and
there's no YouTube.
Yep, I loved it.
I wonder if those are out there. I assume
I bet they are. They have to be, but yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, no kidding. Cool. Well, next one I've got is Silver Spoons, and let's see, that ran from 82 to 87. Premise of Silver Spoons is a boy, Ricky Stratton, and his father, Edward Stratton, got separated because I think his wife left him shortly after they got married, and he didn't know about Ricky for a long time, and then all of a sudden he shows up, and they want to rekindle the father-son relationship. So Ricky is kind of the more down-to-earth boy. He's acting like a child. Right. Sorry, it's the opposite. He's acts more like an adult because he's had to kind of grow up quick. Yeah. And Edward Stratton, his dad, is the owner of a toy factory or toy manufacturer, toy creator. And so he acts like a kid all the time. Yeah. And so that's the dynamic of reuniting them. The father needs to learn how to grow up a little bit, and the son needs to learn how to maybe stay a kid. Grow down a little bit and try to be a kid. Yep. Edward has this giant mansion because he is a multi-millionaire. Two of my picks now, I just thought of that. They're kind of millionaire shows. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so he's walking in because Ricky kind of being a single mom didn't have a lot, so he didn't really have a lot. So for him, this opulence of this mansion is just a little overwhelming. Right. And so you're dealing with that dynamic as well, too, kind of a rags to riches show. And, of course, Aaron Gray is on the show. The lovely Aaron Gray is his assistant. So, again, they got that romance there going on between Edward and Aaron's character. Kate. There we go. Kate Summers. Yep. Who was actually, it was kind of interesting. She was one of the first fashion models to actually have a TV career. She was a model to start with, and she was in Battlestar Galactica. There we go. Was her first.
Aaron Gray, man.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
It's funny. It's Your Move, Jason Bateman. Right. His character on there is in love with Kate, and he's always hitting on her all the time.
I felt that.
I understand your pain, dude.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, just like, I feel you, dude.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Man, she was gorgeous.
She is. Yep. And so they end up getting married later on, Edward Stratton and Kate. Yep. lots of, I just mentioned Jason Bateman. He's got started on that show.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to take so much away from Ricky. He was becoming so popular. He was taking the limelight away from Ricky Schroeder.
Yeah. So then
Ricky Schroeder played Ricky Stratton, by the way.
Right.
And so they had to do a spinoff and had to write him off the show.
Isn't that crazy? He's had so much magnetism that he was taking the limelight. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Well, good for them to like not do that to Ricky Schroeder, though.
Sure. Yeah.
Because most other people would like run with it.
Let's just write off Ricky's character and put him on.
Yeah.
I think they thought,
hit by a train.
Let's have, instead of one popular show, let's have two.
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea.
Good idea. Yep.
I mean, obviously, we found out It's Your Move didn't do too well, but
didn't.
Jason went on to the Hogan Family and some other stuff too. But anyway, the fun of the show was just seeing all the shiny toys because they always had toys.
He had the best stuff.
Yes, and then if you watch the intro, you see the arcade machines. So he had a pinball machine, an Asteroids arcade machine, Gorf, Dragon's Lair, Tempest. He had a foosball table, and then he had the train. His mansion was so big, you had to have this little train to ride around his mansion.
And the conductor hat on and everything. Yep.
So when you're 8, 9 years old, you're like, this is where I want to be.
The dream world. I remember that. Like he had the race car bed. And there's like those big tall crayons in the corner and stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh.
And then he had a computer, which again in the early 80s, like you had a computer in your house.
Oh man. You might as well have a butler too.
And then I forgot to mention the remote control door.
Oh yeah.
Remember to let people in.
That's
he had a remote. Instead of walking over and turning the handle.
That's right.
You grab the remote and it would open the door.
That's right.
So again, just these little things in the 80s, you're like, what? That is awesome.
Yep.
Now the co-creator, I found out, Martin Cohen, he also co-created and co-executive produced Who's the Boss.
Okay.
And then Howard Leeds, who was a co-creator, he also did Small Wonder.
Oh, another good.
So again, look at all these connections.
Yeah, that's
you got
cool.
the It's Your Move guys. The character, one of the actors from here moved over there.
Yep.
But I guess NBC, who had again a lot of the shows we talked about, so the NBC studios also did Give Me a Break, Different Strokes, Facts of Life, Hogan Family, Family Ties, Silver Spoons, Hello Larry, and Punky Brewster.
Wow.
And a lot of these overlapped each other, and a lot of the kid actors said that they would just hang out and play together in between scenes, and they would do school there as well, and so it was kind of this extended family. And of course they did kid pranks. One of the pranks that Ricky Schroeder said that Todd Bridges, who plays Willis on Different Strokes, would run around spraying kids with a squirt gun.
Oh sure.
But it wasn't filled with water. It was filled with urine.
Oh my gosh!
And spraying. He'd fill it up with his own urine and spray kids with it. Anyway, one of the shenanigans. I'm sure there was a lot worse stuff going on, but anyway, it's just kind of funny that all those kids. You name all those shows,
right?
There's a lot of kids and a lot of hits as well. So just think, we're talking about the kid stars.
Yeah, you got Give Me a Break, who had Joey Lawrence. You know. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of kid stars in there. Yeah, Punky Brewster.
All on NBC, all going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, some of them started and ended at different times.
What a time.
But
you think, what a time.
I know.
Goodness. Like, think about that. Like, that doesn't happen today.
You're just hanging around with, hey, I had lunch with Gary Coleman the other day. And
I mean, there's just no sitcoms and stuff today.
Yeah, not all on one lot like that.
Right,
they're all just going on at the same time.
I mean, that just shows you how big of a industry that was, sitcoms and stuff.
NBC was kind of king of sitcoms for in the 80s.
But hey, we didn't talk about Alfonso.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Alfonso from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was on Silver Spoons with Ricky Schroeder.
I just remember he dressed up as Michael Jackson all the time.
Yes, that's right. He had the glove.
Yep.
And his name, it's kind of funny, his name was Alfonso on the show.
Exactly.
And Ricky Schroeder was Ricky on the show. So they used the same name. So it was a good show. They had his grandfather was there. So Edward Stratton II was uptight as well. So you had the dynamic of his dad, the grandfather, was uptight, but then the son was this goofy guy that just wouldn't grow up.
Exactly.
It was the whole dynamic there. Anyway, fun show. I wish I knew if it was on a streaming service. I'm sure it is. But you get to watch Ricky Schroeder grow up. Again, Ricky Schroeder, huge star in the 80s. And he his acting career, I think, too, kind of after Silver Spoons kind of tanked.
Yeah, he's been in some stuff. I think he was on like a CSI or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And then, I forget, it was some cop show. I'm pretty sure I saw him in a movie too, where he played like a vet or something like that. So I mean, he's had a career since then, but and I think he was trying to go by Rick Schroeder.
Yeah, he changed his name to Rick, not Ricky.
But I think now today he's back to being called Ricky Schroeder and stuff. You go from like, that's not me anymore, and then at some point you're like, no, it is me. Like you're trying to still hang on to it, trying to get some money off of your old
It's
past,
hard because I suppose they have to decide, do I just embrace it or
because you don't want to be typecasted or whatever as this, something that blows up so big like that. That's what was good about Michael J. Fox is like, again, he could have totally. I think by him going to the Back to the Future was the best move they could have done.
Yeah.
Because if he would have just kept riding out Family Ties as good as it was, that probably would have been it for him.
You're right.
But since he branched into a blockbuster movie and then it started like a whole bunch of other movies from there.
It did. So he transitioned from TV to movie.
To movies, yeah.
Yeah, you rarely see actors, actresses that can do both. It's usually I start in TV and go to movies, or I go from movies to TV.
Right.
It's never usually both at the same time.
Yep.
One thing I wanted to mention too was that they taped the pilot. They didn't start the actual series until about a year later. So if you watch the pilot and you watch the first episode of the first season, you can tell Ricky's much younger in the pilot than he is in the first one. So they also did a crossover with Different Strokes and several others. They had Mr. T on. So again, Mr. T again.
Everywhere.
was a guest appearance. Joey Lawrence was on there. Sharon Stone was on there.
Oh, wow.
Whitney Houston was on there. Remember the band Menudo?
Yes.
They had an episode with Menudo on there.
That's funny.
That's my last pick, Silver Spoons.
3 or 6 amazing sitcoms.
Yes, like
that
I
was
said,
really good.
NBC was killing it.
You mentioned some honorable mentions though when you're whipping out all those. Because I thought about this 3. It was hard to pick 3. It would have been a lot easier to pick 5 because I almost picked Give Me a Break and I almost picked Small Wonder.
Yeah,
those were 2 amazing shows I really, really loved a lot.
Yeah, they were. I never did watch Small Wonder, but I did watch Give Me a Break.
Oh, Give Me a Break.
Nell Carter,
and Joey Lawrence. Yeah,
she was real. Oh,
she was
so
great,
funny.
man.
Yeah, she just timing of her.
Yes.
Some people just have it or they didn't.
They do. And then some people just have like that lovable personality too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, again, I remember seeing a lot of stuff about her back in the day. It was the same thing. She was who she was on TV as who she was in real life, And so I think that's just why it did so well for her is because she was just being herself,
it's not hard. It's not acting when you're acting like
when you're
yourself.
just being yourself. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of good ones, man. So
I'll put the complete notes in the show notes.
That's right.
And we got pictures in there and just tons of details if you want to deep dive. But I just recommend find your best streaming service, look for some of these, see if you can find them. And like you said, watch Alf together with your kids, and then your kids will be befuddled.
That's right. Get some Mr. T cereal.
Yes.
Some Sunny D.
Yes. Some Mr. T cereal. Man, we could probably just have an episode on Mr. T merchandise.
There you go.
TV shows,
man, he was big.
He was in Silver Spoons, and he had a cartoon show. And,
oh man. He was in Rocky.
I Pity the Fool.
Man. He had all that gold everywhere.
Oh yes, that's right. Last side note, but in Different Strokes, they were trying to get a hold of Mr. T, contact him because he was in the show. He was on there several times. So
sure.
Arnold was friends with him, and they were trying to call and try to find Mr. T, and they finally got a hold to figure out where he was at. And they said, "Well, who'd you call to find out where he was at? His agent?" It's like, "No, his jeweler."
That's hilarious. That's pretty funny.
So anyway, all right. Well, thanks, Jeff. It was fun. We'll have to tackle some more 80s, 90s stuff. I don't know what we'll do next, but we'll figure
thanks for having me on. If you wouldn't mind, can I plug something real
Definitely.
quick? So I just recently had a book finished that I didn't write, but I was the narrator on. And so it's now available on Audible and iTunes and any other place that you find your ebooks and stuff. People would like to check it out. It's a fantasy novel. It's called Moleb the Giant. Mm-hmm. So Moleb, Moleb the Giant. A Tale of the Cardinal Fates is what it's called. And it's written by a good friend, Carl D. Smith. We both know Carl.
Yep. Goat Kicker Podcast.
Yeah, which is fantastic if you want another podcast to listen to, and also co-host of Make Eternia Great Again. But Carl is a established author. He's got a number of books out there. Fantastic writer. This isn't just a guy who sits in his bedroom and kicks something out and you're like, oh, good book, buddy. You know, like, oh, neat. No, I mean, he's got good stuff out there. He's got a whole different line of different books. He's got children's books. He's got teenage novels, fantasy novel, you know, you name it. He's a really, really, really good established artist or author. I highly suggest going out there, getting the book. If you're into listening to books, again, I was blessed to be the voiceover narrator for the book. A fantastic story. It's a fantasy fiction about a giant and a king, and they hate each other, and it's a great lore that it goes into that's never really been explored before, that Carl did a great job on. And then it's got a twist at the end that I don't think anybody would have seen coming, kind of a thing. And so it's got a little bit of heart to it and stuff. And I believe Carl's looking to do, it's going to be a 1 of 3 series books and stuff. And hopefully I'm blessed enough to be able to be the narrator on those books as well. So we'll see. But yeah, if you're into something fiction, is something fun, you like to hear about fantasy and kings and giants and fighting and you know, wars and all, and magic and stuff like that, definitely a great book. Moleb the Giant. Either go pick up the hard copy, or if you like to listen to books like I do, then go on to Audible or iTunes and stuff and download it and hopefully enjoy.
It's fantastic. Put a link in the show notes to both so you can check it out. Yeah, it's a good time. Hopefully Carl's next book will be coming out soon. And you'll get to be recording that one as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Forward to it for sure. So
cool. Well, thanks, Jeff.
Well, great. Yeah, thanks for having me again, Lee.
Let's do it again.
Hey, absolutely. Give me the call.
All right. Thanks.
All right, buddy.
Thank you for listening so much. I had a great time with Jeff, as always, talking about nerdy things, TV shows from the 80s and 90s. And so go to covertnerd.net for all the details. And until next time, nerd it up.